So let's start by installing the Jest package using the savedev flag. Let's now open the package.json file and replace the test script with this. Finally, let's create a new directory named tests, and within it another directory named unit that will contain the unit test for our application. It's important to note that when running the npm run test command, Jest will by default test any file within your project that has the test.js extension. Although test files can be located pretty much anywhere in your project, I advise you to keep them all in the same directory, such as the one we've just created for that purpose, as they will be much more easily maintainable over time. Whenever running tests, Jest automatically set the value of the not-env environment variable to test. So in order to be able to test the environment loader, we're going to start by creating a new configuration file in the config directory, and in this new file we're going to copy all the variables from the development configuration and give them a different set of values. Once we've done that, we can create a new test file within the test/unit directory that will name loader environment unit test. Since test folders tend to get quite messy over time, I encourage you to follow this naming convention for each component of your application, as it will help you keep them tidy and clean. So let's start by importing the environment loader module into our test file and move on to our first test case. The first thing we need to assert is that the configuration loader loads and parses the right configuration file based on the not-env variable, which as a reminder is here to indicate which deployment environment the application is running in. To do so, we're simply going to compare a dummy data object containing the same values as the one present in the configuration file to the object returned by the loader using the toEqual-matcher, which is used to compare recursively all properties of object instances, also known as deep equality. The second thing we need to assert is that the configuration loader throws an error when a configuration file doesn't exist. To do so, we're going to temporarily change the value of the not-env variable to foo in order to force the module to load the env.foo file which doesn't exist. And of course, without forgetting to change the value of the not-env variable back to test right after the test is done in order to avoid messing up the following test cases. Now that both test cases are ready, we can run them using the npm run test command and see that everything is working just as expected. So let's start by creating a new test file for the database loader module. Within this file, let's import the Sequelize package and the database module itself, and let's create a mock of the Sequelize module using the mock function so that when instantiated, the Sequelize module returns an object with a mocked authentication handler instead of the original one that would perform an actual connection attempt to the database, which we don't want since unit tests are not supposed to rely on external dependencies. Let's now add the following after each instruction that will clear all mock calls, instances, context, and results properties from previous calls so that tests don't influence one another. Finally, let's create a fake environment object that we'll use to initialize the database loader with. Now, in order to assert that the database loader creates a new connection handler, we're going to verify that the Sequelize class is invoked with the variables contained in the environment object using the toHaveBeenCalledWith test method. Finally, to assert that the database module actually attempts to connect to a database instance, we're going to verify that the authenticate method of the database handler is invoked only once using the toHaveBeenCalledTimes test method. Let's now run our test cases again using the npm run test command and see that everything is working as expected.